"Why don't we put on a play?" a certain Miss Mayo said to a certain Miss Partridge one day in 1925. And the next year, that's what they did, on the stage at the Market House, Minchinhampton. And so MDS was born. Sadly, in 2009, after 83 years, 150 shows of sketches, Shakespeare, tragedies, comedies, musicals, and reaching audiences of some 50,000, it came to an end due to lack of active members. Recently, we decided to make a film about MDS, showing some of the best moments from over the years of talent, triumph, disaster, and sheer fun of amateur dramatics. And so we proudly present Final Curtain. If you want to know any more about the Society, the archives are held by the Minchinhampton Society and are stored in the Parish Council offices at the Trap House, Minchinhampton. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy our Final Curtain.
Cut! Cut! That was lovely, darling.
No. Keep it rolling. So, in keeping with this solemn occasion, perhaps you will join us in recalling the Lover's Prayer, as performed at somewhere called the Cotswold Playhouse.
Hello, everyone. As the new vicar of Bisley Road, Jeremy's asked me along to add a spiritual dimension to the evening, before we all get drunk. Let us all join together now in a short prayer. Our Father, who art in Andran, Akeborn be thy name. Thy plays be done until kingdom come, in Painswick as they are in Minchinhampton. Give us this day our curtain calls, and forgive us our musicals, as we forgive those who don't clear up on Sundays. Lead us not into Ibsen, and deliver us from Shakespeare. Thine is the prompter, the sound, and the lighting. For Andrew Lloyd Webber, amen.
A casual visitor to Minchinhampton Market House may sense a theatrical atmosphere in the stage equipment, the lighting gallery, the portrait of Sarah Siddons, and signs of past productions. But they would find no evidence of current dramatic activity. The reason, of course, is that MDS, Minchinhampton Dramatic Society, ceased to exist in 2009. It is difficult to assess the hours spent over the years by MDS members in this building, rehearsing, performing, building sets, painting, and partying after the show, in the pursuit of an activity which can be exhilarating and demanding, or a complete letdown. But for more than 80 years, a steady stream of enthusiasts gave up much of their spare time and lost sleep to put on shows for the people of Minchinhampton. MDS was formed in 1926, thus sharing its birth year with Queen Elizabeth II, Marilyn Monroe, Sir David Attenborough, Kenneth Williams, and Winnie the Pooh, among many others. 1926 was not the most auspicious time to be born. A general strike was organised, and although it only lasted 12 days, It divided the country by class and remains a bitter folk memory to this day. The first Congress of the Nazi Party was called by one A. Hitler, and we all know what a mess he made of things. A report by an anonymous doctor revealed that modern young women were turning to drink and drugs in a desperate attempt to cope with modern life. No change there then. In the arts, Fritz Lang's doom-laden film Metropolis was released. The Shakespeare Theatre in Stratford burned down. Movie heartthrob Rudolph Valentino died of appendicitis. The British Broadcasting Company became the British Broadcasting Corporation, and John Logie Baird transmitted the first television pictures, featuring stuffed dummies, a convention maintained to this day. Was it because of, or in spite of, the prevailing mood of the country that Minchinhampton decided it needed a dramatic society? We shall never know. What we do know is that the Mrs. Mayo and Partridge moved to Minchinhampton in the 1920s and decided to start one. Only concert party entertainments were attempted as a start, followed by one-act plays, but by 1932 full three-act plays were being performed, starting with The Farmer's Wife. For many years, the performing area was at the kitchen end of the market house. Dressing rooms were in the gallery. As can be seen in these pictures of old productions, the stage area was even more claustrophobic than the present one. The restricted acting area probably determined the kind of plays chosen, with a preference for the interiors of middle-class homes. Further restriction on choice of programming was the overbearing presence of the Reverend Rex Hodson, the rector of Minchinhampton, long-time chairman of the society. In the early days, before health and safety regulations, over 170 people would be packed into the hall, with folk perched on the windowsills alongside smoking oil stoves. Coupled with the positively dangerous stage lighting in use then, audiences were lucky to escape from the building with their lives. Performances always started or ended with the national anthem, and permission had to be sought from the Postmaster General if a telephone instrument were to be used as a prop. In 1935, probably eager to break loose from the confines of the market house stage, MDS tackled The Merry Wives of Windsor, outdoors in the garden of Windrush, the home of Dr. and Mrs. Holt. The choice of play and the venue show an increasing sense of confidence in the craft of the society, as well as touching confidence in English weather. Public transport was arranged to bring audiences from Box, Amberley and Stroud, resulting in a profit for the show of £15 4 and 9pence. Buoyed by their first success at an attempt to bring the Bard to Minchinhampton, the garden at Windrush was the venue for the Taming of the Shrew in 1936. Around this time, committee member Mrs. Holt was concerned about drunkenness among actors.
Members could not give of their best if taking alcoholic drinks,
she said, proposing that
no drinks be brought into the market house at any performance, also that there be no smoking on the stage or in the wings.
A founder member of the society, Lou Marmont, who resigned in 1937 after losing his hair, revealed in a recorded interview in the 1980s that the reason he had been bald as a coot for years was an infection caught from a wig in the 1933 production of The Cardinal. Unlike the Windmill Theatre, MDS did close for the Second World War. The committee minutes for March 1940 noted that they questioned the advisability of commencing a show this autumn. It was decided to wait until a later date in order to watch the international situation. Should war break out, it was thought extremely unlikely that a performance would be possible. That was to be the last committee meeting for 6 years. It seems no one had told Minchinhampton thespians yet that war had actually broken out in September 1939. MDS restarted in 1946 with the production of J.B. Priestley's The Laburnum Grove, directed by Jack Newman. Immediately after the war, the need to refurbish and update the market house and its theatrical facilities was felt necessary. Architect Peter Falconer drew up plans, and Frank Simmons, the local builder, assured the committee that it would not be a difficult or long job. In reality, it was not until the mid-1950s that the stage was resited to its present position and the necessary electrical and building modifications were completed. Initially presenting one play a year in the 40s and 50s, MDS began to produce 2 or 3 plays annually as the years went by, showing the enthusiasm and confidence of the group in their task of entertaining Minchinhampton. At least 3 of the late pre-war and early post-war actor-directors had experience professionally as wireless actors: Jack Newman, Robert Bashford and Victor Fawkes, the latter having taken part in the much-loved Children's Hour series Toy Time. In another life, Victor Fawkes ran the grocery and provision shop in Nailsworth, on the site of the present-day Williams Kitchen. In the 60s, the Society had a brief flirtation with the Women's Institute, putting on co-productions, and for a short while, film shows were presented under the MDS banner. One of the first children's productions was in 1969, when a cast between the ages of 4 to 12 performed an adaptation of Winnie the Pooh. The children mimed a number of the A.A. Milne stories, while adult MDS members spoke the words from the wings. Bob Anderson acted as an on-stage narrator, and a musical trio linked the scenes. To cater for younger audiences, there were matinee performances on each of the 3 days of the run. MDS made the local headlines in 1971 when a couple of youths broke into the market house and stole one of the stage curtains, ironically decorated with the mask of comedy. They left the tragedy one intact. The stolen curtain was used as a sleeping blanket and then burned. The youths were sent down for 3 months. The old post-war guard gradually made way for a new set of younger members with families who were keen to push back the boundary of possibilities on that tiny stage and tiny dressing room. The first real break from standard 3- and 1-act straight plays was Joyce Thomas's production of the West End musical Oliver. Many people considered this could never be done in such a restricted space, but much against the odds, the Society pulled it off. MDS was fortunate to have recruited a nucleus of backstage talent, not least among them being Terry Thomas, a talented artist and set designer. His book, Create Your Own Stage Sets, is a classic textbook used by many amateur groups throughout the country. David Barker was a regular contributor as musical director, with plenty of young musical talent locally to call on as orchestra members. The backstage team of Barry Lucas, Eric Doughty, George Oxbury and Ron Pontefract produced many memorable settings for MDS productions from Terry Thomas's concept. The Boyfriend soon followed the success of Oliver, Another breakthrough came when the members wrote their own reviews, Nice and EEC, and Scotch on the Rocks. Thanks to the enthusiasm of another newcomer to the Society, Trevor Pickin, the first moving pictures of MDS were captured, albeit in an 8mm silent movie. This is Half a Sixpence in preparation and performance during 1975. Although lacking a soundtrack, the film is a valuable record of how a West End musical was put together in Minchinhampton. Much later, a music track and silent movie titles were added to the film to entertain present-day members. 1976 saw the first of the Society's 2 productions of My Fair Lady. The second one was to be in 2006, to mark the 80th birthday of MDS. Again, Trevor Picken was on hand to record the 1976 show on silent film. Alan Clegg had the distinction of being the only member to appear in both shows. The success of the musicals meant that Minchinhampton came to expect a regular musical blockbuster in the market house, which essentially is what happened with productions of Follow That Girl, Tom Sawyer, Oh What a Lovely War,
Naughty boy, hold your hand out, naughty boy. Last night in the pale moonlight, I saw you with a nice girl in the park. You were strolling, full of joy, and you told her you never kissed a girl before. Hold your hand out, naughty boy.
Guys and Dolls,
I sailed away on that little boat to heaven. By some chance found a bottle in my fist, and there I stood, nicely passing out the whiskey, but the passengers were bound to resist. For the people said beware,
and Kiss Me Kate, following in quick succession. Musicals, with their huge casts, attracted more members, which meant that equally challenging straight plays could be attempted, such as A Man for All Seasons, directed by Maggie Annis, Enter a Free Man, directed by George Evans, The Lion in Winter by Joyce Thomas, Under Milkwood by Mike Reeks, and 84 Charing Cross Road by Ron Pontefract. Helen Hanff, the author of 84 Charing Cross Road, was moved to write to MDS when she heard that the Society were tackling her story.
The most fun I have is getting news of amateur productions in the US and Britain. Unusually yours in a village market hall. Makes me wish I'd been there. I hope to come to London late in the summer, so if I'm lucky enough to get back to the Cotswolds, I'd love to see your town on your 84 cast. Yours gratefully, Helene Hanff.
In olden days, a glimpse of stocking was looked on as something shocking. Now heaven knows anything goes. Good old days, trouble, once new bells.
Never reluctant to mark an anniversary, MDS chose to call their 60th anniversary show in 1986 "60 Years and Then," a romp in words and music through the 6 decades of the Society's existence, written by members. A 60th anniversary exhibition was held in the Market House to coincide with the run of the show. The logo for the show, which served as a backdrop to the sketches, is still used today on Market House stationery. 60 Years and Then was one of the many prize-winning shows produced by MDS. In this case, the Bristol Evening Post Best Variety / Review Award. The post-show party shows just how many people were involved with the Society at that time, one of the high points of the Society's 80 years.
For 60 years we have been active. Who knows what the future will hold? Nobody does, that's for certain. But now, if I may be so bold, I prophesy that as time goes on, the MDS will, it must, thrive. And 40 years on, we'll still be here, and I'll be 105.
1997 saw the production of The Wizard of Oz, directed by Anne Brooks. This cartoon, penned by Terry Thomas from his sickbed in Standish Hospital, reveals just how much MDS members committed themselves to their productions. In 1998, the female version of The Odd Couple, directed by Joe Morby, was scheduled. To publicise the event, the very first filmed commercial for an MDS show was shot during a weekend workshop. The professional actor David Goodland was brought in for voice coaching to make sure the actors' New York accents were as authentic as possible.
Love them.
Great fun. Very good. It's good to have in the village.
They really are good. They work hard at rehearsing, spend many hours rehearsing.
You know, the acting's good. But we generally come for one night, have a whale of a time.
We'll be knocking at the door.
Gee, when did those guys build this place?
You asking me? How should I know?
You're the eldest.
Gee, thanks a million.
What is this? Trivial Pursuit?
Odd that you should mention Trivial Pursuit, because that's exactly what's going on inside this ancient building right now. The 17th century Market House has been the home of the Minchinhampton Drama Society for over 70 years, and this is a rehearsal for their next production, Neil Simon's Broadway and Hollywood hit, The Odd Couple. In this version, the male and female roles are reversed, and that famous opening poker game scene now becomes a Trivial Pursuit evening, just one of the many new angles on a favourite comedy. The group has been rehearsing tirelessly for weeks to bring Manhattan to Minchinhampton in the form of The Odd Couple, running November the 11th through November the 14th. Tickets are available from the market stores in Times Square. Market Square, Minchinhampton. Now.
An association with the church community in 1999 produced Murder in the Cathedral, performed in Holy Trinity with the wholehearted cooperation of the rector, Michael Irving. Yet another West End musical was squeezed into 1999, this time Calamity Jane. Didn't that dapper young chap used to be Archbishop of Canterbury? The millennium was an historical milestone for everyone across the planet and gave MDS further excuse to celebrate an anniversary. This was another show written especially for and by MDS, this time covering 3 centuries in sketch, music and poetry.
From a distance, the ocean meets.
David Homer was crowned King Ethelred the Unready for the run. Why? Because Ethelred was the king in 1000 AD, of course. MDS members performed a royal publicity visit to Nailsworth and Minchinhampton, much to the bemusement of the Saturday shoppers.
They don't come big.
Ah,
No,
that's the sort of thing.
That medal is Swede.
Could you give me another one?
Call it a Swede.
A fine pair.
A fine pair. I think if we look this way, we shall find a rather interesting cabbage wine.
Ah, cabbage wine.
As usual, the whole thing ended up in the pub. The increasing popularity of the internet persuaded MDS to create their own website in 2000 to attract new members and to keep existing members informed of MDS activities. The site, now closed, still exists on disk in the archive and can be readily accessed by interested browsers. On Golden Pond, directed by Ron Pontefract, and Tom Jones, directed by Leslie Kirby, kicked off the new century. 2001 saw Oliver revisited by Anne Brooks. There were the usual queues of children round the block to be cast in a Minchinhampton musical. In 2002, another cooperation with the church gave Minchinhampton a joint production of the medieval mystery plays.
I was pretty daunted at the idea of directing 3 priests to do a crucifixion, especially a crucifixion of Christ. The first problem was trying to get them all together. And we found that, in fact, the only way we could do it was at 8:30 on a Saturday morning. And we just managed a couple of rehearsals at that time. And they worked very hard and it all came together. And I'm sure that it added tremendously to the effectiveness of the scene when the audience saw 3 people that they knew as priests striding up onto the stage in Roman soldiers' uniforms.
She keeps a Moet Chandon in a pretty cabinet. Let them eat cake, she says.
Given the task of finding a suitable children's full-length play, children's drama expert Susie Almond decided to get the Millennium writing team together again to produce a homegrown piece. The result was a fusion of 2 well-known fictional characters, Alice and Sherlock Holmes, in Alice Through the Magnifying Glass. It was the first original full-length children's play written for the Society, and it included video clips of action off stage, shot well before the performances. This provided headaches for Beryl Evans' costume department, as some outfits had to be ready weeks before the performances.
just like a baroness. Middleman from China went down to gauge your mind. Then again, incidentally, you're that way.
The highly popular Abigail's Party, directed by Leslie Kirby, completed the programme for 2002. 24 hours before the run, when the set and props were all in place overnight, a group of youngsters broke into the market house and had their own private party on stage. Unfortunately for them, they had to find their own booze, as the little gin and tonics that Beverly used to offer Ange consisted only of tap water and tonic. Leslie and her cast had obviously heeded Mrs. Holt's dire warnings back in 1936 about the perils of drink. Ron Pontefract's final directorial role was a rerun of The Happiest Days of Your Life, first performed by MDS in 1967. Another cry of "they'll never pull it off" arose when Anne Brooks and David Homer decided to take on The Sound of Music in 2004. They were assured of plenty of volunteers to dress up as nuns, as the association with the church during the mystery plays guaranteed some successful typecasting. Apart from the strong performances from both adults and children, what caught the audience's eyes were the stage settings, the centrepiece of which was Elaine Blatchford's backdrop of the Austrian Tyrol, painstakingly applied over many Sunday mornings. The production won the Gloucestershire Drama Association's Special Adjudicators Award for the Von Trapp children and Best Supporting Actress, to add to MDS's many other trophies and awards. 2004 ended with a Leslie Kirby production of Hotel Paradiso, a real door-slamming, trouser-dropping French farce. Dave Rose took on the directorship of The Railway Children in 2005, but when John Green, who was to play Mr. Perks, became ill, Dave took the part at short notice, handing over directing to Susie Almond. The regular set, design and construction team were now advancing in years, and there seemed to be few people willing or able to take over the work. To ease the situation, it was decided to use video projection in place of physical sets, which meant that it was now not necessary to construct a hardboard railway engine. Such was the dedication of Stephen Hoskin, playing Mr. Sapansky, that when his script dictated that he speak in an unspecified foreign language, he learned "I'm feeling poorly" in Russian, much to the amazement of his fellow actors and any Russian spies who happened to be in the audience. Talking of Russian spies, the notorious Cambridge spy Guy Burgess made an appearance in the next scheduled full-length play, The Marble Staircase, written especially for the Society. A local story based on historic fact, the piece was portrayed as a radio play being recorded in front of the audience. The cast list was severely complicated in that most actors had three names: their own, their radio actor name, and their character in the play. Many came away from the evening confused, not least the GDA adjudicator, but MDS chalked it up as another presentational first. Some even understood the story. Yet another anniversary happened in 2006. Those of you with mathematical brains were probably already expecting an 80th anniversary spectacular, and MDS didn't disappoint. Anne Brooks and David Homer teamed up for one last time to present My Fair Lady. With backstage crew now severely depleted, and no younger blood in evidence to take over scenery design and construction, more use was made of video back projection. This allowed Covent Garden, London skylines, a vast ballroom and a dare races to be displayed at the flick of a switch. Well, several switches actually. The professor's study with book-lined shelves was constructed by Ron Pontefract, sadly his last contribution to an MDS production. The first night audience were treated to free champagne and nibbles to celebrate the 80th birthday. Not sure what Mrs. Holt and the Reverend Hodgson would have made of that. The penultimate MDS show was an adaptation of Terry Pratchett's Weird Sisters, directed by Leslie Kirby. It is loosely based on the Scottish play, and the more superstitious members of MDS were heard to mutter dark things about the failing fortunes of the society being somehow connected, however tenuously, to its association with the play whose name shall not be uttered among theatrical folk. Although no one knew it at the time, the 2008 production of The Secret Garden, directed by Joe Morby, turned out to be the final play to be produced by MDS. Despite a cast of talented children and adults, many electronic effects, a logo designed by Kit Williams, also used in the movie version of the story, and full houses every night, the Society was hemorrhaging support in all key areas of production. Strangely, audiences did not diminish. Over the years, MDS could almost always rely on the support of the people of Minchinhampton to turn out at showtime. Some of the action in The Secret Garden was filmed ahead of production, using nearby locations. When one of the younger members of the cast saw the results of the filming on screen, he remarked, "That's cool. Why don't we do the whole thing on film once instead of having to rehearse for weeks and act for 4 nights?" Perhaps this remark encapsulates the reason why dramatic societies across the country are failing to survive. The new generation looks for instant gratification. From the internet, TV, movies, computer games, iPhones, iPads and the like. They cannot see the point of spending hours and hours of their precious free time learning lines, painting hardboard, setting lights, sewing costumes, searching for props, and the myriad of other tasks required of live theatre. But what goes around comes around. Who knows, when the gloss of electronic entertainment wears off, as it surely will, maybe some new families will move into Minchinhampton. They will discover there is a stage, a dressing room, a lighting gallery and seating for over 100 souls in the market house, and wonder why no one is putting on plays. In this brief history of Minchinhampton Dramatic Society, although some names have been mentioned, it has been impossible to credit everyone who has played a part in bringing MDS productions to the people of Minchinhampton. For this we apologise, remembering that without the hard work of every single team member, however lowly their task may appear, no productions would have been possible. It's a credit to MDS that Despite sometimes overwhelming odds, they have brought over 130 shows to the stage of the Market House.
Now the stage is bare, and I'm standing there with emptiness all around. And if he won't come back to me, then they can bring the curtain down. Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome today?